it be but me, your man, Louis T. Welcome to the Draft Prospects 101 series, your guide to some of the biggest and hottest names of the 2019 NFL Draft. We're talking edge rushers, and this next guy might be the most fluid edge rusher in the 2019 NFL Draft. When I watch him, I see all of the traits that you need to have to be an explosive and dynamic edge rusher at the next level. And he's got that rare combination of length, speed, and ability, just a bevy of moves. And he understands pass rushing. And like I said, I don't know if he's the complete package because of his size. He's a gangly, long defender that he put on weight at the combine, and he didn't look any worse for the wear. And he put on a show of athleticism and versatility that potentially made him a top, 20 pick in this upcoming draft. But his talent was on display last year at Florida State. I'm talking about Brian Burns. Despite them struggling last season, he was outstanding, was Brian Burns. And so here's a guy that I look at and I feel like there's a lot of talent that this guy brings to the table. A little light in the trunks in terms of his size, and you wonder if that's going to affect him in the run game. But if you're talking about a guy that has the ability to get to the quarterback, Brian Burns is it. And so we're going to take a look at what he was able to do in 2017 and 2018. Here's a guy at 6'5", 249, 3-year player at Florida State, 38 games in total, 24 sacks for Brian Burns, 39.5 tackles for loss, 7 forced fumbles, 7 pass breakups, and 3 block kicks. So here's a guy filling up the stat sheet, brings a lot to the table, and I think you're going to enjoy what you're about to see because this guy is uber talented when it comes to getting to the quarterback. And I think he can develop as a much better run defender. He's got to learn to use his length in the run game. You'll see some clips of him starting to put that together. You just want to see it more from him as he develops and puts on. I think his frame can stand to gain a few more pounds. And I think when it's all said and done, he can get to 255, 257, maybe even 260 and keep that on and still keep his explosiveness and athleticism in the process. So I don't think he's a finished product yet. And I think that's the thing that has people buzzing about Brian Burns, that he's not done yet. Potentially he can get better, he can get stronger, he can get bigger, physical, and still keep the athleticism that he has. Let's take a look at what he brings to the table as we start in 2017 on the road versus Clemson. Here, this is just pure speed off the edge, use his hands to finish off the win and get the sack of the quarterback. You see how fluid that is? And I talked about this with Montez Sweat. When you see a guy turning a corner at 7 yards legitimately, you know the guy's extremely explosive and he's winning. And that's a win in college. That's a win at the next level. You get to the quarterback and are able to turn the corner at 7 yards, you're going to win consistently. And look at him turn the corner here, flatten that edge, and get straight down to Kelly Bryant and get the sack. That's beautiful. And you can't do it much better than that. And you see how fluid he was turning that corner? I mean, the tackle barely got a hand on him. Nice fluid spin here, gaining ground towards the quarterback in the process and putting pressure on Kelly Bryant. Just a quick release by Bryant onto an open receiver, and that didn't allow Burns to hit home. But you saw how quickly he won on that spin. That was fluid and that was easy. Loops around, then finds a seam and accelerates to the quarterback for the pressure. And it was his pressure on this play that made the throw errant and allowed the defender to knock the football away, almost allowed it to be picked off. So you see him looping around there as a stunting defender. This is beautiful right here by Burns. Watch him come around, find the seam, and then accelerate to the quarterback and pressure Kelly Bryant as he was releasing that football. Watch him play contain versus the quarterback here on read option. All right, stay at home. Don't buy the read option. Stay at home and then force him back inside to your help, which comes, and now you've done your job. That's a great job there by Brian Burns. Doesn't make the play. You'd like to see him make the play, but he did his job to make sure that Kelly Bryant wasn't able to get into the end zone. Here, he's shot out of a cannon off the edge. Watch him force a fumble here as he gets in there on the exchange between quarterback and running back and jars that football loose. You can't do it much better than that. And here, he just says to hell with contain. And sometimes you can get away with this. If Kelly Bryant pulls that might be a touchdown. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But he gets in there. And if you're going to go, you better go and you better make a goddamn play. And he does it here. He gambles, sticks his hand in the cookie jar. Looks what he finds. Finds himself a cookie. Yum, yum, eat him up. Yum, yum, eat him up. As he forces the fumble down by the goal line. That's beautiful. And this is not the same play, folks. All right, this is not a duplicate. He does it again. He did it again. Look at him get in there on read option on the exchange from quarterback and running back. Force the football out. And look, I'd be pissed if I were Brian Burns here. I do all of that. They're down there by the goal line again. I do all of that to force the fumble. 2 or 3 guys have a point blank shot at picking this football up. And nobody recovers the ball and Clemson gets it back. You talk about pissed off. I would be super pissed at this point if nobody picks this football up and Clemson actually gets this football. But there's no way Clemson should have got on this football. That's utterly ridiculous, but he did his job there. Anyway, here, initial drop into coverage, then closes on the quarterback for the sack outside of the pocket. And much like I talked about with Montez Sweat, it's not a good idea to try to run away from Brian Burns. The acceleration, the explosion, the closing speed, all of that stuff, it's ridiculous. The length. You don't want to run away from this guy because he is going to track you down, and you saw him do it there for a sack outside of the pocket as we go to 2018 versus Miami on the road. Watch him control the action with long arms of the law to keep the distance and allow him to get into the play and ultimately get a piece of this tackle. Remember, I talked about him having length and being able to be better in the run game. That length is going to allow him to be much better in the run game. He needs to use his arms more, use his length more to disengage from offensive linemen, to keep clean and be able to get to running back. Here, pure speed off the edge forces the quarterback to step up earlier in the pocket than he wants to, right into the pressure and to the sack. And a lot of that was Brian Burns. Watch him get up the field and force the quarterback. The tackle barely got a hand on him. Watch him get up the field, force the pressure off the edge. Quarterback feels that pressure, steps up immediately right into the rush. And all of that is Brian Burns forcing him to step up into the oncoming rush and essentially into that sack. That's all Brian Burns there. Here, he didn't recognize runs right up the field, and the tackle barely touches him, and he runs himself right out of the plate. All right, that can't happen. He can't run up the field willy-nilly like that and open up a gaping hole to the sideline. He's got to be better than that. Here, silky smooth outside rush, comes back inside. All right. And then without extra protection there, that's a sack, or at least a big time pressure. There was help to the inside, and that helped that tackle, but Burns beat him initially. Here, dip, baby, dip. Come on, dip, baby, dip. Look at that fumble right there. Look at him get around the corner. And that's as good as it gets, baby. Cotton candy, sweet and gold. Let me see you get that ball. And that's what he did on that play. You got to love that ability. He's so long, and his ability to still dip that corner and get around that tackle. Tackles don't want to have to bend. If you can, and that's where a DeMarcus Ware was so special. His ability to dip down, and then you see how he dipped down a little bit there. I'd like to see him get even lower if he can, but his ability to dip down there allowed him to get around that corner and get to the football, forcing that fumble. You know I love forced fumbles, man. That's beautiful there. That's as good as it gets from Brian Burns on that play. That's where the length comes into play as well. Watch him blow up the screen here with this explosive get off, just pure speed off the edge. Quarterback never had a chance. That tackle never stood a chance. That was straight win off the edge, and they couldn't even get that thing going with Burns coming off the edge like a bat out of hell. Here, playing with this rollout with balance and contain, then the closing speed to gobble up the quarterback for the sack. I talk about this all the time, how you don't want to run away from Brian Burns. He's so athletically gifted, and you see it there. You can't really run away from him. If he keeps contained, he keeps balance, he's going to be able to track down defenders. You saw him do it there. Here, he beats this sifting protection, gets up the field, gets his hand up in the passing lane to deflect the swing screen out in the flats. If he doesn't get his hands on his football, it might be picked off, but nonetheless, he keeps his distance with length here. Watch him keep his distance with length, and then that allows him to stay disengaged and get a piece of the tackle. That's what he's going to have to do more at the next level if he wants to be a serious part of the run game, is stay disengaged with his length, which will allow him to get into play. And finally, we finish up against Wake Forest in 2018. Eyes on the ball carrier here. As he peels back and gets into the play, he could have easily forced a fumble. That guy had no idea that he was coming from the backside. It's a great job of him peeling off that block and getting back into play. Here, don't try to outrun Brian Burns when he's keeping contained. It's just not smart. And that quarterback had to find that out the hard way. You're not going to win that battle. You're not going to outrun Brian Burns to the edge. And so he gets a sack there. Here, nice inside move with quick hands to produce pressure, but he doesn't get the sack. Find a way to get the sack here, man. You can't miss that sack. But ultimately, his teammates helped clean this mess up that he created and forced the punt. But nonetheless, you see what Brian Burns brings to the table, man. This guy is such a fluid athlete, such a fluid pass rusher. I think the sky's the limit for this guy at the next level as a pass rusher. I think he's going to be best served to be in a 3-4 defense, in a 2-point stance, standing up. I think he can drop into coverage. He's very comfortable. As we saw at the combine, out in space in those conversion drills, he looked as comfortable as any defender I saw the entire day at the combine. You see it on tape with a guy that's very comfortable out in space, flips his hips well, has really good ball skills as well. We saw that at the combine. There's so much to like here with Brian Burns. And I think the fact that he can probably still put on another 5 to 10 pounds and still keep that athleticism is even more encouraging. I don't see how this guy lasts more than 20 picks in the first round. This guy is such a rare talent. I really like Brian Burns, and I think he is going to be a hot commodity come the 2019 NFL draft. Who do I compare him to? He looks a lot like Leonard Floyd coming out of Georgia. Another guy that could rush the quarterback, but could also drop into coverage. Now, Floyd was a little different. He was more utilized as a middle linebacker when he was at Georgia. He came into the league and made the transition to outside edge rusher. And I think that when you look at Burns, he's going to be more of a natural pass rusher than that of Floyd. I think they have that same angular, tall, lanky frame. But Burns, to me, is more of a natural pass rusher, and I think you'll see that play out at the next level. But they have that same build, same ability, same athleticism, and I think those two are very comparable to one another. So that's going to do it for Brian Burns. I'm your man, Louis T. Thank you for joining me. Subscribe to the Louis T Network if you haven't already done so. Also, subscribe to the Louis T Network podcast. Check that out. A lot of great content on the podcast. We've been talking a lot of draft of late, so check that out. Louis T Network available on Stitcher, Google Music Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and of course the website louistnetwork.net. And also join me for the draft party as we break down the NFL draft live in real time as the picks are made here on the Louis T Network, days 1 and 2 of the draft. So the first 3 rounds of the draft will be here live on the Louis T Network, giving you coverage of each and every single selection, giving you analysis, and also chopping it up with you guys and getting your input on these picks as well. So join me, your man, Louis T, for the 2019 NFL Draft Party here on the Louis T Network. I'm your man, Louis T, signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage it could be. Until next time, have a good one.